My dear friends, this is chapter 8 of my book El Intimo, a book about evil things. Clara was convinced that Arthur had been given a gift, a wonderful blessing that he steadfastly refused. 60 years ago, when he recovered from the curse inflicted on him by Jacobita, he discovered that he had a sixth sense, a faculty that allowed him to feel the pain and suffering of others when he touched objects or articles of clothing they had worn. Sometimes, when the gift was particularly intense, he would be able to look into the future. It was this aspect of the gift that frightened them. The gift was not always present and made its appearance when it was least expected. Claire was ever watchful for its manifestation, but after 60 years of observations until it was upon them, she had yet to be able to anticipate its coming. Nevertheless, she always knew when Arthur was about to have a vision or an intuition of something yet to come. Immediately before the manifestation, he would always imagine that he had seen and talked to Jacobita. Her appearance would sometimes be so unexpected that Arthur would involuntarily blurt out her name in joyful surprise when he saw her. The gift did not come without some cost. Each time Arthur was beset with the gift, it would degenerate into another major annoyance. He always felt guilty about the joy he felt when he imagined he saw Jacobita, and he would suffer terrible bouts of depression. He was caught in a terrible dilemma. He wanted to see her, yet he knew it was adulterous and a serious assault on his religious convictions. Claire was aware of all of this, but despite it all, she was convinced that the potential for doing good with the gift was so great that any discomfort he might have to endure was a very small price to pay. The first time Arthur became aware of the gift occurred immediately after they had returned from Casas Blancas. He decided to visit his mother before taking on his next assignment, and it was on the way to his hometown when his train was unexpectedly delayed. He sat quietly dozing away the time in the station as he waited for the next train. When he awoke, Jacobita was sitting next to him. She smiled at him and touched his hand tenderly. She never said a word. As he became fully awake, he reached out to her, but she melted away seemingly into thin air. Later, when he reconstructed the memory of this encounter, he was never sure if he talked to her or not, but he could remember distinctly that she had faded away into the distance. She moaned that as she faded away into the distance, she motioned him to follow. When he arrived at his mother's house a few days later, he was shocked at her emaciated appearance. He touched her hand and had instantly felt the raging destruction of cancer in her breast. He became horrified at what he indubitably knew was attacking his mother, and he ran from her as quickly as he could. He never told her that he knew that she had deadly cancer. When he returned home, he told Claire everything that had happened. Not believing what he recounted, Claire made the trip to see for herself what terrible disease had stricken his mother. When he saw her, there was nothing wrong. She was in perfect health. Arthur pushed the incident out of his mind. 2 years later, the doctors diagnosed the disease, but it was too late to help his mother. She died a horribly painful death several months later. The doctors had explained to the family that had they known earlier, they could have saved their mother's life. Arthur never forgave himself for his despicable weakness and the suffering his mother had to live through. Forever after, he blamed himself for not telling her in time. Several years passed without incident. One day, Claire and Arthur accepted an assignment in New York City. Shortly after their arrival, they decided to take a walk through Central Park. As they wandered around the lake, Arthur thought he saw Jacobita walking some distance ahead of them. He rushed to catch up with her, but she disappeared into the crowd before he could reach her. Obsessed that it was indeed her, he desperately searched the park from one end to the other until he finally found her, sitting quietly on a bench a short distance away. She looked up at him and smiled. He rushed to the bench, but when he arrived, she was gone. Disappointed by his failure to find her, he sat heavily on the park bench to wait for Claire. As he sat there contemplating what had just happened, he saw a woman's glove lying innocently on the ground in front of him. Absently, he picked up the glove. Instantly, a powerful vision overwhelmed him of a young woman desperately trying to get away from an unseen assailant. Badly panicked by the frightening scene, he immediately cast the glove away from him and refused to touch it again. For days following the incident, the terrifying vision of the girl under attack plagued him again and again. The ghastly vision was frighteningly clear and detailed. He saw himself as a witness, standing outside the doorway of the house where the attack was taking place. As he watched the horrific altercation, the address of the house seemed to float in the air before him. After seeing this vision several times, he had a premonition that he should take the address down. He took a small book out of his pocket and wrote down the address. The vision immediately stopped. When he recovered from the manifestation, he discovered that his notebook did indeed contain the address he had imagined that he had written. Claire tried to get Arthur to act on what he had seen, but he adamantly refused. He was fearful that the clairvoyance was an evil to be avoided at all costs. Finally, unable to stand the guilt of inaction any longer, he reported what he had seen to the police. The officers broke into the house and discovered the girl barely conscious and on the edge of death. Her attacker had left her for dead many days before and fled the scene. 2 days later, she died. Arthur never forgave himself for his cowardice. He could have saved the girl's life if only he had acted sooner. Through the years, there have been many incidents like these where Arthur had received glimpses of the future. He had never acted on what he saw. As she walked silently behind Arthur, Claire tried desperately to remember the warnings of Padre Miguel so many years ago. Were those clairvoyant feelings of danger that Arthur was having coming from Jacobita's Intimo or not? Somehow, Claire thought not. Many times Arthur's feelings had revealed that if he had acted on time, he could have averted a tragedy. As she walked along the trail, she realized that it was his cowardice that had caused his inaction. The warnings of Padre Miguel had simply been an excuse, a cover-up for his fears. She realized, however, that his failure was hers as much as his. Knowing what he knew and that he would not act, she faced the fact that the responsibility was now hers. This time, she would not hold back. Arthur paused briefly to wait for Claire, and he turned towards her. "Claire, it's like the time that I found the glove in Central Park. Do you remember? I don't want to go down there." "But you must, Arthur. This time you have to go. You mustn't wait." Reluctantly, they made their way down the wash towards the bend until finally they reached a mesquite stand. The last rays of the sun in the horizon faintly illuminated the scene, giving it a desolate and abandoned quality. It had become a desert, devoid of life. The great dog moved quickly to the place where the shoe had been found and sniffed around, scratching and gouging in the sand with his huge paws. Arthur approached the site. Without warning, his mind was flooded with visions of Casas Blancas. It was a kaleidoscope of images. In the middle, he saw an old footpath that led to the small stream by the edge of the village. He looked around curiously at the familiar surroundings. Off to the left, he saw a flicker of lights in the pleasant little village. In the distance, he heard the gurgling of the little stream. He felt at ease and mildly surprised. Spontaneously, he started walking down the path. The arthritis pains were gone. "Where are you going, Arthur?" Padre Miguel demanded. "Padre Miguel, is it you? My God, I've missed you so much all these years," Arthur explained, reaching out for Padre Miguel. Arthur, listen to me. Don't go down there. That's what El Intimo wants. He knows that's where you were called. That's where you called Jacobita. And he can take you there again like he did last time. It's a trick, he said as he faded into the background. Look at my hands, Padre Miguel. They don't hurt. Look at them. They're not ugly anymore. Look at me. I'm young again, he said exuberantly. Off in the distance, he heard Claire calling. She was running towards him. Curiously, Arthur glanced at her and watched the distance between them grow greater. Look at Claire, Padre Miguel. She's running and running, but it doesn't do any good. She seems further and further away, he said as he turned to his old friend. Don't look at him, Arthur. He's gone now, Jacobita answered, taking his hand. Jacobita, look at how beautiful you are, Arthur exclaimed in joyful surprise. And you too, Arthur. You look wonderful, Jacobita exclaimed happily. Come with me. Come quickly to the stream. Arthur turned to Claire, and away in the far distance he saw that Padre Miguel was running towards him, with Claire gasping right behind him, trying to keep up. The great dog was running slightly ahead of Padre Miguel. He waved his hands toward them, urging them to hurry. Inadvertently, he saw that his hand was old and ugly. Look, Jacobita, my hands. They're ugly again, he whispered painfully. No! They're beautiful just like before. Stay with me, Arthur, so you can be young again, she said. Looking at his hands again, he saw that they indeed were beautiful. He turned to Jacobita again and took her hand. It was wonderful to touch, smooth and svelte and beautifully silky. Arthur, no, it's El Intimo. It's not Jacobita, wailed Claire in the distance. Hurry. Let's go before they get here, insisted Jacobita as he pulled him towards the stream. It's time to go now before it's too late. They're waiting for us. Look, Jacobita, the children are with Claire and Padre Miguel. They're all calling me. Look at me, Arthur. Don't look at them. Run with me to the stream. But how can I run? I'm 84 years old. No, Arthur, you're young again. Look at yourself. Come with me before it's too late, Jacobita urgently demanded. Arthur turned toward Claire. The distance between them was even greater and increasing very rapidly. He could barely see her and Padre Miguel in the distant horizon. They were trying desperately to get his attention, to get him to answer their call. He turned to Jacobita. She was so beautiful. He smiled. The wind softly caressed her hair, and her thin dress fluttered in the gentle summer breeze. She reached out to him tenderly. Come, Arthur. It's time for us to go, she said sweetly as she led him down the path towards the stream. As he was led docilely away, he felt a sense of loss and a pining for Claire and Padre Miguel. Wistfully he turned again towards them, wishing they were here with him. Impossibly, the distance between them had greatly diminished. The great dog bounded towards him, getting closer and closer. With an incredible burst of speed, the dog overtook them and threw himself against Arthur. Angrily, Jacobita threw her arms in the air, and a furious wind tumbled the great dog from the path away from Arthur. Howling in pain and fury, the great dog recovered his balance and again threw himself against Arthur, determined to stop his progress. In a rage, Jacobita again conjured up a fierce wind and plummeted the dog violently away. Jacobita, you're hurting my dog, Arthur exclaimed angrily as he started short on the path. Arthur, come with now. It's time to go. We have to go now, she said, pulling him urgently. Jacobita, you hurt my dog. Look at him. He's in pain over there, Arthur said, extricating himself from her firmly as he moved towards the wounded animal by the edge of the path. No! Look, come with me. Look at me, Jacobita demanded angrily. Fighting desperately to tear his eyes away from the Jacobita, Arthur turned his head and knelt down to minister to the dog, but he wasn't there. Confused, he looked around at the deepening shadows. Off in the distance, he saw the fading figure of Jacobita reaching out for him, calling him with a barely audible voice. Arthur, what's wrong with you? Claire said, shaking him roughly. It's the dog, Claire. Jacobita hurt him, and now I can't find him. Help me find him, Claire. Arthur, we have to go home now. It's dark and dangerous hearing them wash at night. But the dog, Arthur pleaded. Arthur, there's nothing wrong with the dog. He's over there by the bushes, just digging in the sand. What happened to you? Where are we? Arthur said anxiously. What are you talking about? We're here in the wash by our house, Claire explained. Where is Jacobita? Why is it so dark? Arthur said angrily, his eyes darting left and right. You're dreaming. Jacobita isn't here. She died many, many years ago. You're imagining her just like before, Claire said. Where's Padre Miguel? I know he was here. I just saw him. No, 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 you're dreaming, Claire said impatiently. But Claire, a moment ago we were young and beautiful again. Look at us now. I don't want to be old anymore. How did we get so old? Arthur cried in disbelief. What is wrong with you? Claire demanded, forcing him towards the trail of the house. Did you see her, Claire? Did you see how beautiful she looked? I want to see her, Arthur said weakly as he walked alone. In a state of confusion, he let himself be led back to the house, arguing all the way about the dog and Jacobita. Within moments of his arrival, he fell asleep into a deep, deep sleep. Arthur, wake up, Jacobita demanded. Jacobita, you're back, Arthur said as he woke up. Come back to the stream with me, Jacobita said. Jacobita, I'm too old to go by myself. I can't go. Yes, you can, Arthur. You have to do it now, and you're not old. You're young, insisted Jacobita. Arthur rose from his bed and looked at himself again. Why, you're right, Jacobita. Look at me, he said happily. I'm young again. Look at me. Yes, you are young again, Arthur. Arthur got up and moved towards the door. He looked back momentarily to check on Claire. Jacobita, look at that. I'm still in bed. Isn't that odd? He said, mildly surprised. Pay no attention to it, Arthur. Hold my hand and I will lead you, Jacobita countered. Jacobita, why did you wait so long to come for me? I have come many times before, but you always send me away, Jacobita answered. How did I do that? I don't remember sending you away. Don't you remember, Arthur, when your mother got sick? I visited you, didn't I? And didn't I come to you when that young girl was murdered? I tried to help you, but you wouldn't do it. Why didn't you help, Arthur? It was Padre Miguel. He told me not to accept the visions. I gave you the visions so you could see into the future so that you could help those people. And many other times I tried to come to you, but your mind was closed. Padre Miguel told me that the powers are evil. He told me that you got your powers from your Intimo. He said that you and your Intimo were fused into one spirit. Touch me, Arthur. Am I a spirit? Am I not flesh and blood? Padre Miguel doesn't know anything. He's just a poor little Indian priest who tried to be what he wasn't. Jacobita, didn't you die back there in the shack? Arthur asked. Of course not. Die? We're here, aren't we? We just changed a little. Arthur looked back towards the house. Far away in the distance, he saw the fading figure of Claire standing at the edge of the village. I thought you had hurt my dog, Arthur said, turning from the fading image of Claire far on the horizon. We would never hurt your dog, Arthur. We just sent him away for a while so we could talk, Jacobita said gently. Jacobita, I can't see very well in the dark. Give me your hand. Yes, yes, Arthur. Here. Hold my hand. We'll show you the way. Look. Over there by the stream. There's Don Cuauhtémoc waving at us. Jacobita smiled happily. It felt good to be young again. The end.